Thousands of years ago, these were a typical food source for those living near the Mediterranean Sea because inhabitants weren't able to grow other grains.
Chestnuts.
It is chestnuts. Number 7. Turkeys have been the most popular protein choice for Christmas dinners around the world since only the 1950s. Turkeys weren't brought into Britain until the 1500s and took a while to become the popular choice. What was the most popular dish for centuries before the turkey, according to a few different food sites?
You'd think it'd be ham.
That's what I would think is ham.
Mutton.
Not mutton.
Gotta ham it to you there, Jeff. But it's a good one, but I think it's ham.
I'm thinking of like over the course of history, you know. So ham is a good guess. What I saw on most sources was goose.
Oh.
Like a Christmas goose.
That makes sense. I've heard that.
Also
Cook
would
your
have
goose.
also would have accepted pheasant because that was pretty traditional.
Oh, sure.
Number 8. This holiday, which name means first, as in first fruits of the harvest, has many main dishes. And today, in America, including catfish, collards, mac and cheese, jerk chicken, gumbo, and akras, according to Food
Okra.
Network.
Did you say okra?
No, it's not. It's not okra. It's something I've never heard of, and I looked at it, and I still don't understand what it is. It's called akras, I guess.
And what are you looking for exactly?
What is the name of this holiday?
Is that Kwanzaa?
Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa means first. Yeah, first fruits of the harvest.
Nice.
Obviously, those weren't the traditional dishes I gave you. Number 9, this popular dessert is very old. The first known recipe dates all the way back to 2400 BC and is now associated with Germany and its holiday traditions. In England, unmarried women used to eat these in the shape of husbands in hope they would meet the real thing. During festival days, images of saints would be depicted instead.
It's a huge-ass dessert.
Not the size.
They
It's
weren't
not the
life-size
scale.
husbands.
So they're gingerbread cookies.
They are gingerbread. Good job.
Huh.
Yep. That was
In the shape of men, because this will help me find somebody.
yeah. Well, husbands.
I mean, they didn't have internet, so.
Yeah, no eHarmony. However, I will say gingerbread cookies are awesome.
Yeah, they're good.
So good.
So I think that was what gingerbread men and bobbing for apples were a way to find a husband in the early
Now, all
days.
they gotta do is have a bobbing for gingerbread men.
They get all soggy.
That's like
They
that's
didn't
like
bob real
guaranteed.
well.
yeah. Drowning. Drowning for gingerbread.
Hey, there's your husband to be. Oh, no. He just drowned.
All right, and number 10, wrap it up. This sweet and savory dish was traditionally a small decorative pastry filled with meat, sometimes fruit, and several different spices. Wealthy people and history's rulers put on large feasts featuring this dish during the Christmas season, and eventually became associated with the holidays. By the Victorian era, the meat dropped out, and now it mostly just contains fruit.
Is that mincemeat?
That is a mincemeat
Pie.
pie. Yep. Mince in Latin just means small.
That's crazy because in any other language it probably sounds like horrible.
Like chopped up.
Yeah, like
Yeah. It's just small meat pies, and they had little decorative doodles on them.
small meat pies, small meat packets.
All right, well, I'm going to take us from that to the origin of many of our Christmas traditions that we know today.
This fire is so warm.
Yes, it is. A lot of these, by the way, have come from the Victorian era, and if I say that is the era when Queen Victoria ruled England. So you got like from 1837 to 1901.
Mm-hmm.
That's when people say the Victorian age. That's what you're talking about. So mid to late 1800s.
Yep.
That's what they're talking about. First of all, the Christmas tree. That's got a long, long legacy because both the Egyptians and Romans, way back when, used greenery in their homes to celebrate winter festivals and the triumph of life over death. People appreciated plants that stayed green throughout the cold winter months because there wasn't much else growing.
All right. It was a sign of life.
There were two cities that really claim that they were the first ones to actually do a Christmas tree. One is in Riga, Latvia, and then the other one is Tallinn, Estonia. Both claim to be the home of the first official Christmas tree. Records from 1441 in Tallinn, that's the one in Estonia, reported that a tree was brought into the town square for a dance. Records from Riga show as early as 1510, the Brother of Blackheads, which is a group of bachelor merchants, probably looking for their gingerbread depiction somewhere, set up a decorated tree in the town center to celebrate the winter solstice. The two
Pimple
countries,
brothers.
the two countries still go back and forth about who came up with it first. Back in 2010, Tallinn's mayor actually sent a Christmas tree to the mayor of Riga, congratulating them on the 500th anniversary of the Christmas tree, and also reminded them that they'd been doing it for 69 years longer than they had. So,
Petty.
I mean,
I think that's nice.
it's not that great of an idea. You just bring a tree inside.
It's not like what he should have done is put the Christmas tree like in his bed, chopped up,
Oh,
like they did in The Godfather with the goat or the horse.
horse head.
Yeah, with the star cut off.
Yeah. So before that, they just brought like boughs in, or what? Like just little parts of trees, right?
Sure.
Okay.
How far do you think I dug on this? Martin Luther.
This is the origin of the tree, not
Yes.
everything before it.
Right.
I did talk about Christmas trees last year. I dug pretty deep.
Well, that's because you were only talking about trees.
Right.
And if you don't dig deep, they don't stay. They just fall over.
Right.
Martin Luther was a German theologian.
You're a mess today.
I am. Taking that flat tire off the expressway was wiped me out. I should just call it a day. Anyway, he was a German theologian and religious reformer who was the catalyst of the 16th century Protestant Reformation. He was a big mover and shaker in the religious world back in those days. He may have actually been the first one to add Christmas trees to his Christmas lights to his tree.
Ooh.
Supposedly, he came up with the idea after admiring the stars glittering through pine trees. So he went home and added candles. I don't have this for sure, but I think he's also probably the first one to burn down his house.
I think
Oh yeah,
Christmas
people
tree
put
ignited?
candles on their trees.
there's like 7 code violations there.
The Christmas tree was popular in Germany in the 1800s, and the German immigrants actually brought that tradition to America. But it wasn't until Queen Victoria and Prince Albert were on the cover of the London Illustrated News with their children surrounding a Christmas tree that the Americans really bought into the tradition and, wanting to keep up with the Queen and what was hip, started doing it on a regular basis.
So
the points.
They think they're gonna have an icebreaker. You have a tree. I have a tree.
It's a thing to do.
I guess
If it's good enough for the Queen. Poinsettias. You know what those are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cute
The
little
red
plants.
flowering plants.
Yeah, in the 1800s, the United States ambassadors to Mexico, whose name was Joseph Poinsett, was intrigued by the vibrant red flowering blooming in the southern part of the country. Missionaries actually called it the nativity plant because it blossomed during the Advent season. Poinsett, who was also a botanist,
Olive Garden.
Olive Garden.
Delicious.
This is redonkulous.
I wonder if we have to beep all this out.
Not giving them free advertisement.
especially since we weren't talking about Christmas food. Yeah. So, Poinsett was also a botanist, and he introduced the flower to the United States. There is a popular Mexican Christmas legend that tells the story of Pepita, a poor little girl who wanted a gift to give the Christ child at Christmas Eve Mass. Unfortunately, she was very poor, and all she had to offer was a small bouquet of weeds. Her cousin assured her, though, that whatever she gave would be enough.
Aw.
And as she presented the bouquet, a Christmas miracle occurred, and the weeds magically transformed into a beautiful red poinsettia.
Doubtful.
Isn't that a lovely story? It's a legend, Don.
Miracles happen.
Paul Bunyan did not have a big blue ox.
What?
Nor was Paul Bunyan an actual living person.
What?
Next on Trivia Rogues.
That'd actually be an interesting one, Paul Bunyan.
Wreaths are another tradition that's steeped in symbolism. Actually, it goes back to the early Roman and Greek times. Wreaths were often worn on heads. It was a sign like the crowns and stuff like that. The early Germanic people made wreaths during the winter months to remind them of the warm weather that would return. Christians later adopted the tradition and used the circular wreath as a symbol of everlasting life through Christ. Wreaths made of holly, known for its sharp, pointy leaves, reminded early Christians of the crowns of thorns worn by Christ. And they stopped putting them in theirs when they were putting it on their heads. Later, people would light wreaths during the Advent season to celebrate Christ as the light of the world. The fruitcake.
Hey.
Yes.
Despite the widespread hatred of it, it wasn't always despised. In fact, back in the 1800s, before the age of refrigeration, it was popular for its long shelf life, which I think we can still attest to today.
Yeah.
That's what makes people hate things today. The longer of a shelf life you have, the more people are repulsed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be bought overseas and still remain edible. So, its origins date back as far as the ancient Egyptians, who placed a version of the fruitcake in tombs when a relative died. And those fruitcakes are probably still...
Oh, yeah.
Still kicking.
Yep.
It's like a McDonald's hamburger. Just lives forever.
But again, it
I
wasn't
think you
always...
need to find a new McDonald's.
No, didn't
could
you
be.
see that thing? They or was it an Egg McMuffin? It was an Egg McMuffin or a hamburger that was 2 years old. It looked exactly the same.
I think I know what you're talking
Exactly. It did not change at all.
There's just no way.
about. Preservatives.
There is a way.
I'll look it up.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
So-
Rachel, look it up. Does McDonald's expire?
I'm sure it's gonna.
I
say
wouldn't
yes.
eat it.
Oh, that's true, I guess.
I'm just referring to that picture that went viral like 10 years ago. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
You
Back to the Romans.
You may proceed.
The Romans also ate a version of the cake, which they often took with them to the battlefield. No, they did not use it into their catapults.
That's what I was going to say.
It is like a cannonball.
I know you. It continued into medieval times and was even outlawed for a short time in the 18th century Europe because it was not horrible,
Too
but
delicious.
sinfully rich. Yes.
I was actually going to say they use it as a shield.
In the Victorian age, it was a staple at tea parties, and it wasn't until it began being mass-produced that the gift of fruitcake began to fall out of favor. Now, back to your thoughts. There is a town in Colorado called Mantua Springs that has hosted fruitcake tosses in the past. Peasants.
Peasants.
Get out of here, you loaded stuffs.
Participants built catapults and cannons for the event.
Nice.
See? There you
Yep. You were ahead of your time.
go. We all know that.
Caroling. That also has medieval origins dating back to the 12th and 13th centuries when minstrels would go door to door performing for people. The songs didn't necessarily have anything to do with Christmas and were performed year-round. The earliest Christmas carols actually evolved out of nativity plays that started in Italy by St. Francis of Assisi. The carols were religious in nature, but often
St.
told...
Francis is an assistant.
You watch your mouth.
That's St. Francis you're talking about. How dare you?
I am fed up with your attitude, Jeff.
If you were fed up, you'd be a little more tolerant.
Yeah, you're wearing a fab shirt.
Of course I am. It's like a pillow on my chest.
I like it. Well done, sir.
Okay, so the carols, I'm not even going to talk about St. Francis anymore, were religious in nature, but were often told of made-up events. In Victorian England, the traditions of singing holiday carols and traveling door-to-door were combined, and that's when the caroling as we know it was born. In the 19th century, Christmas became a more widely commercialized holiday worldwide, and caroling became more popular because there was sheet music that was actually out there, so people could take it with them and sing along.
That's helpful to know
And-
now because of my topic.
Yes.
Right.
And what was on that sheet music? Lyrics.
And
And
clefs.
clefs.
A libretto.
All sorts of wonderful things.
Those are for little operas.
Christmas stockings. Now, this is where we get into some stuff that's probably not 100% true.
But if they do ask, these are the traditions that are spread that...
Yeah, and you know what? I looked on a lot of stuff. There are so many different stories about a lot of these things, so these are the ones that I seem to encompass more the majority. But so much of this stuff is just, legend handed on from year to year to year in different cultures. In fact, this one's got a couple different cultures in it, too. The original St. Nicholas, supposedly while traveling village to village, heard about a merchant who had fallen on hard times and couldn't afford dowries for his 3 daughters. So, and that's at that point in time when daughters were married, they went with a dowry,
Oh,
be
yeah.
it livestock or money or something like that. That was about the only way that the fathers could get rid of their daughters, apparently.
I'll pay you to take her.
Do you accept fruitcakes?
I'll give you 5 chickens.
St. Nicholas, knowing that the man would never accept money and certainly didn't want a fruitcake, so he threw 3 sacks of gold down the family's chimney. The sacks happened to land in the daughter's stockings that were drying by the fireplace. Since that time, children
they
have been...
happened to fall. He dropped them down the chimney, and they
Yep.
happened to fall into the stock.
I don't